It's a question that's puzzled filmmakers for generations. How do you show a cinematic divine being? From Star Trek V.
Excuse me, I'd just like to ask a question. What does God need with a starship?
To Clash of the Titans.
Release the Kraken!
Movies have wrestled with how to show God and gods on the big screen. And the hottest ticket in Hollywood, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is no exception to this struggle. Marvel Studios has already made multiple feature films starring members belonging to the pantheon of Norse gods. Charlie Wen, former head of visual development at Marvel Studios, led his team to design the cinematic versions of Thor and his Asgardian pals. We sat down with Wen for an exclusive interview, and he explained that two very important members of Thor's immediate family almost looked very, very different. Odin and Loki, Thor's dad and adopted brother respectively, were first drawn in Marvel Comics by the legendary Jack Kirby, who probably didn't draw many or any actual mythological details to bring them to the page. Both debuted shortly after Thor's own first comic book appearance in Journey into Mystery number 83 in 1962. But even though they both showed up right around the same time in the funny books, their looks couldn't have been more different in terms of design and even simple consistency. Loki's costume from Journey into Mystery number 85 may not be a pretty sight, but it is an excellent example of how to design a bad guy. Where Thor wears blue, red, and has graceful-looking wings on his helmet, Loki is a perfect contrast to those details. His outfit consists of hues from the other side of the color wheel, green and yellow. And instead of a headpiece with wings that angle backward, his own outfit features aggressive horns that jut outward. While Loki's look has evolved over the years, these have been constant features that appear in nearly every incarnation. Odin, on the other hand, couldn't be less consistent or defined. Odin's first appearance, sporting a style best described as comic book Viking stuff, only reveals his head, appearing in the clouds over Thor Mufasa style.
Look inside yourself, Simba. You are more than what you have become. You must take your place in the circle of life.
His next batch of appearances are no clearer, with various designs that include assortments of helmets, capes, more helmets, furs, and what sure seems to be a cummerbund with a lightning bolt hastily drawn on it.
It's a lightning bolt with extra powers.
Considering how important and powerful Odin is supposed to be, he might want to try getting dressed in front of a mirror for once, and maybe fire whatever crappier Norse gods have the job of dressing him. The Allfather's look continued to evolve each time he appeared, making it seem like artists relished the opportunity to use him for experiments with new space Viking designs. Even when writer-artist Walt Simonson took control of steering the Asgardian royal family's adventures with Thor number 337, Odin never stayed in one outfit for long. Simonson's run is famous for introducing Beta Ray Bill, Frog Thor, and that incredible scene when Scourge machine guns a bunch of demons. But his Odin remains as impossible to pin down as anyone else's. When Charlie Wen became the head of visual development at Marvel Studios, one of his first tasks was adapting the mythical land of Asgard and its powerful inhabitants for the first Thor movie, which arrived in 2011. And that meant trying to define the looks for Thor's immediate family members. But before he could settle on a specific direction, Wen first had to find directions he wanted to avoid. That's why he came up with this version of Thor's villainous brother, which Wen calls Loony Loki. While Loony Loki retains the classic green and gold colors from the comics, nearly every other element seems transformed. Wen explained,
Loki's horns are, it's really represented in this floating shape that's behind him that also changes. It'll float back up into shapes that you'll recognize as being his horns. It was more like, how do we still capture that character, but in sort of unique ways?
This version of the character was never really meant to show up on film. In fact, this design came about before there was a finished script, and before director Kenneth Branagh came on to direct the project. Rather, Wen was experimenting, seeing how far out of shape Loki could be bent before he became unrecognizable.
Here, I was trying to push it as far as I could. So it was more like, I understood the icon, let me try to rip it as far apart from that, while still trying to maintain who that is. It probably broke at some point, but that's actually what you're trying to do, is like understand how far do you go until it actually breaks. And this is one of those explorations of like, I need to push this. When I show that to people that are just big Loki fans, they're just like terror. It's like, I'm so glad it wasn't like that. But I mean, we needed to go there.
Loki wasn't the only character to get stretched past the breaking point. Because of Odin's ever-changing fashion, there's not much Wen could have done in his early designs that would have been too out of bounds. It's fascinating to imagine the Asgard Wen was building early on, since it seems like it would have gone more into Thor's sci-fi elements than the Shakespearean super fantasy we got instead. And on that note, this concept art of Odin, his outfit, and his choice of furniture speaks volumes about the movie that could have been.
The MCU is filled with magic, but that magic is really science that we don't understand, right? And so that was the premise that was set up both on Iron Man and onto Thor, right? So Thor's is a magical world, this realm that we didn't understand, but we wanted to still be based in science.
Let's look at Odin's chair, which consists of floating platforms that seem to have eventually appeared in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie for Thanos' throne. Wen explained this design was part of an earlier idea for how magic and science would come together in Asgard. The Rainbow Bridge, for instance, would form as floating platforms that would appear as a person crossed it. When Asgard's design shifted to the more fantasy-based style that we saw in the Thor movies, Odin's floaty throne went away, which, according to Wen, was probably helpful for at least one actor.
Thank goodness for Anthony Hopkins that he didn't have to sit on anything like that.
Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about the Marvel Cinematic Universe are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.